If you delve into the reasons behind our conflicts, especially religious ones, they are mostly tied to the politics of our group affiliations. Despite millennia of civilization, humanity continues to grapple with religious differences. Interestingly, these differences have little to do with individuals or humanity at large. The primary culprit is the politics of belonging to our groups. Even today, amidst democracies and various isms, we often fail to question our group allegiances and willingly engage in their politically dubious activities, regardless of our personal spiritual awareness. We not only commit spiritual offenses in the name of our groups, but we also allow individuals within these groups to escape accountability for crimes they would otherwise face within their own societies. We sweep everything, including spiritual offenses, under the rug and often twist narratives to glorify those involved. This political prejudice and discrimination inflicts suffering upon individuals on both sides. As political entities, groups blame each other, perpetuating a cycle of robbing each other's members of love. The pain of losing love cuts deep into the soul of individuals, leading enraged persons to desire the infliction of similar pain upon those who cause their suffering. Thus, the cycle continues indefinitely, with people willingly becoming fodder for the flames of conflict. Sometimes such conflicts persist for centuries, as seen in the Shia-Sunni dispute. Consider our enduring conflicts of modern history, like Palestine and Kashmir, or the Shia-Sunni divide. They all point to the same conclusion. These conflicts transcend religion and nationality. They are united by loyalty to the politics of group affiliation. The primary factor perpetuating prolonged conflicts is the loss of individual love and the resulting pain. This loss profoundly impacts individuals, leading them to forsake personal compassion and justice to serve the political agendas of their groups. These conflicts are rarely about appearance, background, or religious practices. They are fundamentally about political maneuvering. Evidence lies in the Shia-Sunni conflict. Despite sharing the same religion, the wound inflicted by group politics remains unhealed. Leaders on both sides perpetuate this wound annually, manipulating individual emotions and hormones to keep memories of lost love alive, regardless of how long ago the losses occurred. Belonging to humanity as a human being is a natural state. However, our leaders often incite us to channel our individual energies into passionate allegiance to groups rather than fostering compassion. Most of our identities are politically constructed and instilled from a young age, shaping our belief that our group's actions are inherently right. This entrenched belief makes it difficult for individuals to stand up and embrace their humanity independently. Today, we define ourselves by color, gender, nationality, religion, sect, and more. Yet in reality, we should all identify as true human beings belonging to humanity as a whole. People continue to suffer the consequences of crimes they did not commit. For instance, being born into a particular group cannot be a crime, as no one chooses their birth circumstances. Punishing individuals for political conflicts they did not cause constitutes spiritual injustice. Our politics of group affiliation blinds us to these spiritual crimes as we've been indoctrinated to prioritize group loyalty. Since identities like Shia or Sunni are politically constructed and false, there is an urgent need for us all to first identify as human beings. These groups have not only fought and killed each other over political differences for far too long, but also prevented their members from adapting to the dangers of today's nuclear age. Personally, I believe this defiance against the evolutionary and spiritual order for humanity is clear. It is our inherent nature and responsibility as individuals to evolve spiritually. Failing to do so goes against our nature. By now, humanity should have united to overcome its differences. Issues ranging from global warming to infectious diseases and the perils of warfare all demand humanity's collective action. Unfortunately, the politics of group affiliation continue to obstruct progress, serving as a metaphorical wall preventing our next evolutionary step. Equal human rights are a life-saving remedy for humanity, universally embraced because they engage both individuals and humanity as a whole. Through the information age, humanity has grown closer, rapidly transcending political boundaries worldwide. Would you still harbor prejudice or discriminate against someone who looks or believes differently? Would you take a life if your group asked? Will you prioritize humanity over group politics? If not, why not? Do you possess enough spiritual awareness to treat others as you wish to be treated and to prevent spiritual crimes? As I've stated before and will reiterate, it is the individual who suffers from the loss of love, driving them to extremes. Our groups manipulate us to stoke the fires of conflict continuously. Belonging to humanity poses no loss for the individual, but for groups, it signifies a potential downfall. In conservative societies, such transformation is actively suppressed. Not only are loyalties preached, but individuals are also threatened with ostracism and worse. These nations often preach against equal human rights to maintain individual vulnerability. Every group operates under an us versus them philosophy, inherently tainted with prejudice and discrimination. The solution to individual suffering lies within the individual. Treat others as you wish to be treated, or as you would want for your loved ones. If you seek freedom, do not request it as a political entity or as part of a group, because any appeal made in such a manner is inherently political and can be countered from the opposite perspective. Instead, advocate for equal human rights as an individual, so that you may be respected wherever you are and whoever you belong to. Strive to align yourself with humanity above and beyond the realm of group politics. Logically, by this point in our evolution, we should have left our tribal strength behind in the bush or cave. However, our politics of belonging have prevented us from evolving to meet the demands of modern times. Though we remain the same creatures, we now face the perilous reality of nuclear and biological weapons. As creatures with both group politics and access to such weaponry, our current struggles and victories can have devastating consequences for humanity. Consider, for example, the Shia-Sunni conflict, which has persisted for centuries. Often, when one group prevails, it seeks revenge, much like an aggrieved individual suffering from the chemical imbalances of lost love. To me, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is not rooted in religion or territorial disputes. Rather, it revolves around the politics of belonging to respective groups, given that these groups coexist harmoniously in Western nations. If coexistence is possible elsewhere, why not in their own lands? This conflict is driven by politically installed identities and a sense of belonging. Israelis, or rather Jewish people, should heed the lessons of history, particularly their past interactions with Germany. They must avoid subjecting others to what they themselves endured. This issue is not about states. It concerns equal human rights for all individuals, transcending religious or political affiliations. Kashmir faces a similar predicament. Individuals suffer not for any crime of their own, but simply for being born into opposing groups, which constitutes an open spiritual crime of prejudice and discrimination. In today's world, Palestinian cries should serve as a reminder to Israelis of their historical experiences, urging them not to perpetuate injustices they once suffered. However, the powerful politics of belonging can foster generational amnesia. I do not write this to align with any particular ideology. Rather, I aim to awaken individuals to take charge of their lives and become CEOs, embracing their humanity. Those who value equal human rights should actively support them on an international scale, especially when it comes to personal beliefs in belonging. Individuals should prioritize personal justice. If you are politically aligned with a group and view yourself as an extension of that group, you might see questioning individuals as problematic. Conversely, as an independent thinker, you would welcome questions. Personally, I question everything to uncover the root causes of our problems, enabling informed discussions. In this day and age, humanity should have transcended the problems that originated in our tribal past. Every individual should ask themselves why we cannot overcome our politics of belonging if we are an evolving entity. Failing to ask this question denies humanity's potential for evolution as willed by God. If you believe your group's knowledge is complete, step out of that political pigeonhole and face reality. Look around and assess humanity's current state. Considering complete knowledge as political is incompatible with the inherent human nature bestowed upon us by God. Lack of optimism and trust in God or nature reflects personal weaknesses. The benefits of faith, like reducing stress-related illnesses, are akin to placebo effects, scientifically unproven yet individually influential. Similarly, imagination and ego both serve as double-edged swords, capable of both healing and harming. By nurturing its positive aspects, we can harness imagination to heal or let imaginary demons consume us. The dichotomy between negativity and positivity not only defines life, but also distinguishes humans from mere animals. Interestingly, the choice to nurture the spiritual side ultimately lies with the individual. Both negativity and positivity are owned and strongly influenced by the individual. Thus, making choices due to the politics of belonging remains an individual decision. Politically influenced individuals may be weaker, whereas CEOs of their lives are inherently stronger. Why would anyone choose weakness, especially in this day and age? Diverse schools of thought constitute the fabric of humanity. Therefore, as thinking beings, we must all assume responsibility and become CEOs of our lives. As we mature into adulthood, no one, and I mean no one, should possess the authority to make decisions for us, particularly when such decisions are politically motivated. With equal human rights, each of us should have a voice in our own lives because, as entities, we are not genetically programmed. The age-old debate continues. How much control does an individual truly possess? Many blame external forces for their predicaments rather than assuming responsibility. While I acknowledge the role of God in our lives to a certain extent, our decisions, whether spiritual or physical, are driven by free will. God and the devil should not be held accountable for an individual's actions due to our capacity for free will. Except for miracles, every act, whether godly or diabolical, requires human intervention to manifest physically. Failing to acknowledge human responsibility undermines the entire framework of justice systems, akin to toppling dominoes. A quote resonates here, and I quote, "If the soul is left in the darkness, sins will be committed. The guilty one is not he who commits the sin, but the one who causes the darkness. Victor Hugo. End quote. While this quote sounds profound, I personally disagree with it. I believe that each and every one of us possesses an atom of autonomy that allows us to exercise our free will and personal sense of justice. With this power, every human individual becomes an independent entity responsible for their choices. Our task is to nurture our spiritual side to become CEOs of our own lives, embracing individual responsibilities. Certainly, God and spirituality are integral to our mortal existence. However, removing human responsibility distorts the entire spiritual framework because humans do not fit the mold of other creatures. Unfortunately, our politics of belonging often overshadow our individuality. Religious doctrines emphasize human insignificance, elevating God and devil to prominent positions. Yet, it is the living, breathing human individual who gives substance to all good and evil deeds. Choices driven by free will are exclusively made by individual humans, demonstrating that these choices are owned by the living, breathing individuals. Education about what is right and wrong is largely influenced by our belonging groups and is therefore predominantly political. This education tends to favor specific groups over humanity as a whole, serving as a flaw built into nurturing these groups. Individuals are deliberately subjected to different scenarios where they are made to believe they are extensions of an ideology rather than central and significant characters. Consequently, they perceive themselves as merely physical entities, feeling small, powerless, and irrelevant. This belief disconnects them from recognizing their direct connection with the source or their inherent worth. Religions play a significant role in this disconnection by promoting subservience, submissiveness, irrelevance, and dependency. They position God and the devil at the top of the hierarchy, perpetuating the belief that individuals are born sinners who must continually seek forgiveness through prayer. To understand why the placebo effect persists, why our hormone levels fluctuate with group successes and failures, why we are mortal, and why we do not possess all-encompassing knowledge, one must acknowledge our ongoing evolution. Each one of us possesses the capacity for imagination, an immensely powerful and deeply personal tool for navigating a successful mortal life. Authoritarian groups seek to stifle individual thought and imagination, preferring that individuals relinquish control to their groups. Leaders, whether political or religious, deliver impassioned speeches before sending their followers to kill and die for the group's cause, thereby robbing individuals of their ability to assume the central role in the spiritual narrative or become their own narrative. Such actions stem from a fear of losing political power. Within each of us lies all the components of humanity, encapsulated as a drop within the ocean. One can actively engage their imagination to perceive themselves as part of or within the ocean. One perspective offers a true reflection of our spiritual essence, while the other deprives us of that essence, integrating us solely into the ocean of physical existence. This transformation is driven by the political maneuvering of nationalism and even religion. Both aim to rob individuals of their spiritual worth and self-sufficiency, fostering the belief that they are insignificant entities born into sin and perpetually in need of absolution. Recognizing reciprocation as practical prayer could diminish the political power wielded by belonging groups, motivating them to oppose individual liberation and equal human rights. Their political strategy is to keep individuals weak and vulnerable, ensuring that they feel insignificant and irrelevant, thereby compelling them to cling to their groups for security. The politics of division serves as another potent tool wielded by our groups, founded perpetually on prejudice and discrimination. As an individual, you can either accept this reality or choose to assume the role of CEO in your life, relegating your belonging group to a subsidiary position rather than an extension of yourself. When you disagree with your group's policies, stand your ground, thereby avoiding internal conflict and preserving your inner sense of autonomy. Although you may face punishment or ostracization from the group, internal conflict can constitute a far harsher penalty for a mortal being. Assuming the responsibilities of a CEO requires leveraging your imagination while also maintaining a watchful eye on your mortal nature. Balancing these factors ensures that you do not inadvertently fall victim to the politics of belonging while nurturing your ego, thereby maintaining harmony with your inner spiritual self. As human beings, our existence has always and will always embody an evolutionary process requiring personal effort. If we fail to invest this effort in our lives, we not only impede our own evolution, but also perpetuate lasting harm onto future generations. I recall watching Dr. Wayne W. Dyer on television, offering the metaphor of a butterfly struggling within its cocoon to strengthen its wings and fly. This analogy holds relevance for humanity as we develop stronger muscles through resistance training. Without struggle, a caterpillar cannot develop wings and metamorphose into a butterfly. What lies ahead for humanity? Why do we grapple with our politics of group belonging, squandering resources through conflict and bloodshed? If these resources were redirected toward addressing poverty, disease, and hunger, humanity's spiritual evolution would advance significantly. I contend that our next evolutionary step entails transcending our barbaric and destructive politics of group belonging, abandoning prejudiced and discriminatory practices that foster violence. Logically, as human individuals, we should all belong to humanity as a whole. The politics of group belonging serves as our cocoon. Unless we break free from its constraints, we risk succumbing to global warming or nuclear warfare. Consider the prophesied day of judgment described in religious teachings. We possess the agency to avert such a fate. Those who eschew personal growth and evolution attribute their stagnation to divine will. My question to them is, why not emulate the struggling caterpillar within its cocoon? God has provided us with oxygen and a functional body. Now, we must leverage these gifts to evolve physically and spiritually, thereby fulfilling our potential. If a caterpillar can transform into a butterfly, what heights can humanity achieve? From the moment of birth, and even as a newborn, we endeavor to move and facilitate the flow of oxygen to our cells, fueling growth and functionality. Each individual cell harbors the potential to evolve into what God intended. Consider why we perceive ourselves as insignificant, why we attribute everything to God and the devil, and where we truly stand in reality. By posing such questions, we unearth our significance, positioning ourselves as an essential component alongside God and the devil. Remember, these entities are mere sides, reliant on our physical existence. Without us, their relevance fades. If we neglect our evolution and continue obstructing our natural progression, we erect obstacles in our own path. The politics of group belonging seeks to maintain our worm-like status to prevent us from independently taking flight. By learning to soar, we elude their control, a concept that political groups find intolerable. Whether religious or secular, this issue grows increasingly convoluted, for groups striving to assert dominance over humanity. Aligning with humanity grants individuals wings. Thus, should we remain cocooned as worms? Ponder this query rationally. Wouldn't you, as a rational individual, prefer to discover your potential and understand your natural inclinations? Always remember that God wills humanity to evolve as entities requiring personal effort. We are not meant to remain ensnared in the cocoon of politics. Period.